this story goes back to 2018. I was a newly minted financial advisor at the time, and it was just before Christmas. I was staying at a family member's house, and I received a phone call. This was from a client who was really rather perplexed and frustrated and, frankly, rather panicked that the markets were dipping drastically. If anyone remembers, late 2018 saw a very near bear market miss where we went down by almost 20% on the major indices. And having just assumed the servicing of her account, she wanted to know, what did this new financial advisor have to say and what could we do about it? Well, I vividly remember pacing around in my family's basement. I didn't live there, again, staying there for Christmas. And walking her through the regular cycles of the market and the ups and downs that we see. For instance, every 4 to 5 years, typically, we'll potentially see a down market, and that it had been close to a decade since the last one, and that chances were, if history was any teacher to us, the markets would recover, although it's certainly scary in the meantime, and there are some things that we can do, all with an eye towards trying to help her see through this current downturn so she could stay the course. Unfortunately, this story doesn't have the happiest of endings, because at the end of the day, about a week after we spoke, she ended up pulling everything out. Such is life, I guess. In the meantime, I've learned a few things though, and I'm happy to share those with you today, and that's actually what today's video is about. So without further ado, let's dive into 3 things you can do in a down market. Hi, I'm John Norberg, and welcome to the Financial Prop Series. So what are some things that we can do the next time that the stock market takes a significant dip? Well, thankfully right now, markets seem to be doing all right. But here's how, if we do see another dip this year or next year or half a decade from now, I would probably advise on a general basis, not knowing you specifically in your situation, how you could react. So first things first, don't panic. We're in this together, and we've been here before. Obviously, markets go up and markets go down, or at least that's what they've historically done, so chances are they'll continue to do so. In the midst of a downturn, though, it's very difficult to hang on and believe that there's going to be sunshine at the end of this tunnel. And I get that, and I've seen it with my own portfolio. We've all been there. But if we look at what history has shown us, statistically speaking, again, about every 4 out of 5 years will be up. But that 5th year, chances are it will be down. Now, since the Great Depression, we've had about 1 out of every 4 markets, 1 out of every 4 or 5 years on the markets where we've seen a bear. And again, a bear market is a decline of 20% or more from recent highs on the major indices. But most bear markets tend, on average, to be relatively short in the grand scheme of things. The longest bear market that we've historically seen was actually less than 3 years. Again, that's where it dipped below 20% decline and stayed under that watermark. So knowing that we will most likely, if history is any teacher, see that market recover within a year or 2 or maybe even less, for instance 2020, the great pandemic, the market dropped into bear territory and then recovered and went on to new highs in less than a year. So we don't want to jump out in the middle of a downturn if we're going to miss that potential upswing in the meantime. Alright, so we've done step 1, which isn't panic. What do we do next? Alright, step number 2, look at your portfolio for potential tax loss harvesting opportunities. What does that mean? Well, if you don't know what tax loss harvesting is, or you've heard of it but you're not quite sure, we did a video on this a couple weeks ago. Take a look back. Basically, tax loss harvesting is where you take an investment that's made money and an investment that's lost money, sell them at the same time, and net the loss and the gain so that you pay much less taxes, possibly none at all. Or, for instance, in a downturn, maybe everything in your portfolio is down. You can still tax loss harvest by looking at what investments make sense to sell so that you book that loss and can potentially not only offset future gains, but carry that forward into future years where when the market has potentially recovered, you can use that when selling something that now has a gain because you've booked that loss. Also, taxable losses can offset a small portion of regular income too, up to $3,000 per year. So again, step 2, look at your portfolio for taxable harvesting losses. All right, step number 3. Now, recognize income for instance through things like Roth conversions, while your taxable situation is potentially lower. So if we've done some tax loss harvesting and maybe we're offsetting some of our regular income, this also makes sense for us at the same time to look at Roth conversions. A Roth conversion, again, we've done a video or two on this in the past, so take a look back. But very briefly, it's where you take money from a pre-tax account, like a traditional IRA, SEP IRA, simple IRA, etc., and then convert that to a post-tax account. And in converting, we recognize the income at the year that we do the conversion, but now it sits and grows in this tax-free account potentially, the Roth IRA or Roth 401k. The idea behind that is that if the markets are down by, let's just say 20%, we've now got a 20% sale on our tax bill for the Roth conversion. So again, let's say we have $1 million in a traditional SEP IRA, and the markets are down 20%, so now that million is 800,000. Well, if we were to take 25% of that 800,000, like again, $200,000, easy math, right? And convert that to a Roth IRA, yes, we'll pay the taxes on that 200K in the same year that we do it, but we're going to now watch that 200K potentially grow substantially as the markets recover. And because the markets have had a perfect batting record so far, in other words, every time that they've gone down, they have also come back, there's a pretty good chance, obviously not a guarantee, but a pretty darn good chance that we're going to see that Roth IRA grow substantially, not just by the 20% decline, but further on beyond that potentially, because every time that the markets have gone down, not only have they recovered, they've also gone on to set new records. For instance, we saw this just at the end of the past year. As we wrapped up 2023, the markets finally recovered from the 2022 bear market and went on to set new records right around the holiday period. So, these three options are things that you can consider the next time we see a market downturn. And of course, don't forget to talk about this with your financial advisor. If you don't have a financial advisor or you're not in love with your current advisor, give us a call. We're happy to talk through what your goals are and see if any of those options, or perhaps all of them, might make sense for you. And in the meantime, I'll see you out there.